I'm wordless to express my emotions. First, it felt like I'm back in 1995, and it's a horrible feeling. On the other hand, I quickly realized that we can do all of it. We know what to do, what to ask for, what buttons to push. But it was happening way too quickly, way too quickly. Again, it was the same Grozny city in Chechnya where 2,500 soldiers were lying down on the ground dead. Their bones were gnawed, and then those bones were moved to the forensic lab to be identified. But I don't really want this to be repeated, because the whole thing is extremely scary. We have one song to sing. We need to make armistice and to exchange everybody for everybody, all captives for all captives, and all the dead for all the dead. Valentina Melnikova, Executive Secretary, Union of Soldiers' Mothers Committees of Russia. 24th of February, you wake up and you see this news. What do you feel? Sadly, I feel that our Cassandrian prediction came true. Since December of 2021, we were saying the troops will move to Ukraine. Why you make this conclusion? Because so many troops on the border moved from across the country. It couldn't be just a military exercise or a threat. Clearly, they brought them there to start an assault. Too many. The line was too long where they were deployed. If they wanted just Donbass, then the troops would be concentrated in Rostov region, as it was in 2014, 2015. But because the troops were deployed along the borderline, clearly the troops will be moving in. And the threat was significant. Then, the New Year passed, and they were bringing more troops there. Then January passed, and they were bringing more troops there. And then parents called me, saying, Valentina, my son told me they're brought to the Ukraine border. What to do? I said, go and take them back. Like we said in 1995, the same thing. But those mothers were, oh my God, how am I going to go? I said, fine, call your son and tell them, run away from the military unit, find a safe place. Then I send them a report, what should be submitted to the military prosecution. But this mother says, oh, they will be shot under the court decision. And I said, you, girl, you're young, where you've heard this word, tribunal. None of those daughter of the bitch or son of a bitch never went anywhere to save their kids. It was the same in 1995. No soldiers, no officers knew before the January 1st of 1995 where they were brought. And then TV started showing all those horrible dead bodies, and maybe the relatives saw that, and finally quickly there was a big noise everywhere. The parents started coming to us, calling us, and we said, all of you who want to get their kids back, go to the military unit and bring them back. I said, how easy. Find a hole in the fence or, pay a bribe and get your kids back. We had some heroic parents who did these incredible things. So we had this guy, father, who kidnapped 60 boys, kidnapped them from the military unit and guided them through the forest to a safe place. Somehow people were trying to protect themselves. What you say now, we see that they're not contracted soldiers. Doesn't matter who they are, generals, colonels, whatever. If they don't want to fight, you have mother, your wife, they come, take them away and hide them, and then you write a report to the commander. So you see, they don't have to fight. There should be an order. This young girl from Munich was asking me today, so what do you think? Who told them? I don't know who told them. They were supposed to have an order. The order should be read to them. If they didn't know where they're going, then they didn't read them the order. Then they are nobody and their name is no one. So how you make this conclusion that they didn't know the order? But you see those captives that we see on the video, and all of them are saying, I didn't know where they sent me, but you see the person is in captivity and they can say whatever they want. Oh, come on, they're treated very well. The first captives, when we looked at the data, I immediately remembered that during the first Chechen war, both General Maskhadov and President Dudayev, and first of all, they issued the order not to kill captives. These are laws of the war. Then, back then, we didn't have cell phones. Somehow they informed their parents and journalists, and finally our representatives were there, and the journalists went there, and they were informing them where are the soldiers and in what captivity they kept them, and all those boys were returned to their parents. But in Ukraine, we can't do that. We can't send parents there because clearly our Russian troops will probably kill them and obliterate them. I actually rely on the Ukrainian side. We can write them a letter, we can somehow identify the soldiers that we could bring back, but now we cannot do that. So those captives are treated very well. The officers in captivity are alive, so why? Things are fine. So, but if somebody found themselves in the situation, where it's a hot spot, so to speak, and they were killed. But you see, our supreme commander knew or doesn't know where he sends his troops. Today, how many requests you have from parents? I can't tell you, because until I have the data of a soldier, I don't register it. In my colleagues in Volgograd and Nizhny Novgorod city, it's different. There are military units there. Soldiers and officers are local. And parents started coming to their offices. In Volgograd, they told me that like 10 people a day come for their boys. In Nizhny Novgorod, a similar thing, 5-6 parents a day. Many people call. And when they call, I ask what. So they say, we saw them on video, so send me a message with the name and the military unit number. Nothing in response. They say, we thought you're going to help us. What kind of help they want? They want me to be a miracle maker. They want me to wave a magic wand and get them their boy back. They expect a miracle from us. They always did. But miracles are not always happening. This war is so closed for humanitarian organizations and humanitarian initiatives. We never had anything like that. So in other words, it's very different. Yes, it's different because, first of all, the territory is extremely vast. Many troops on both sides of the conflict. Russian troops are extremely cruel towards the residence areas. So they used to bomb Grozny city and the mountains in the Chechen war. And maybe it was cynical, but somehow it was kind of spread across the timeline. So we could figure something out at the first phase of the war, and then in Chechen war, and officers and military prosecutors were pretty loyal. Mothers would bring their boys and get the documents and stuff and all that. But here, a couple of weeks of the war, and there were so many losses, so many destroyed buildings, and already they were threatening with the nuclear weapons. For the first time, I got scared for 30 years. I was never scared before because I knew, somehow we'll figure it out, we'll sort it out, no matter what happens. But here, I really got scared because the intention was very clear, and there is nothing that could stop the person if they want to throw a bomb, not just a rocket, Iskander rocket, but they can send something with a nuclear warhead. And of course, it's sickening. And when I realized that I was scared, I really felt nauseous. I'm not used to this. You see, just in life, I'm pretty coward. like a girl. But in my business, in any business, I'm not afraid of things. I know what to do, how to do. Many things happen. Well educated, lots of skills. I can do whatever I want. But here, it was really, really unpleasant. During the first and the second Chechen campaign, the Soldiers' Mothers Committee, you were in contact with the military administration. You probably had some conflicts, but you see, we're in contact now as well. But we can't be in contact with those who are there on the front line. We can only do it with the people who are here. Do you have the lists of military men who are there? I won't answer this question. So we have the lists of soldiers that Ukrainians give us. They're all authentic. Everything on those lists is right. The same as General Maskhadov in Chechnya. So they make this list according to the IDs, but you know, and thank God today we have those soldiers tokens, because the first and the second campaign in Chechnya we didn't have those military tokens for soldiers, and the paper ID could be put in the headquarters of the unit, and forget about this boy, and the boy is lying down dead on the street and nobody knows who this boy is. Can you imagine or make an estimate how many troops, how many soldiers they have there? I can't. We could do this. We could track them down when they were deploying the troops on the border. But now the mothers of the one of the contracted soldiers called me and said that their unit was removed from the front line because they had many losses. So, and she called me so that her son would go there again. So now we called the special hospital to do the psychological rehabilitation for the internal police in Russia. But you know, when they have such a military action, so their psyche goes nuts. So I really don't know what the rotation is there. So the estimate that we had when there were military experts for this war, it was pretty accurate when there was there on the line. But you see, I'm not a military expert. We're more about the losses, about the captives and all that. In your estimations, how many dead? I don't have an estimate because I have the lists that the Ukrainian part gives us, and I'm inclined to believe those lists because they are by name. In the conditions of the military actions, this information could not be verified. And there are many of them. So what the question is, no matter how many we have of them, so when you are in the military actions, you have to have a humanitarian armistice, not for the refugees, but you need to stop fire so that special envoys of the commanders, and in Ukraine it's very difficult now because the captives are in different places and the dead are in different places, and the Russian side is not saying where they keep the dead bodies of the Ukrainians, where they keep the Ukrainian captives. So this should be, and then we'll think further, because what and where, it doesn't matter for our work, no matter how many. I don't have my estimates. I can only say that one of the sides gives us a number, and I can evaluate it, right or wrong. But in general, it's accurate, and we have videos, and the videos confirm the lists. Where are the parents of those boys, soldiers? Not all of them have parents. Some of them are orphans, and some parents are different, but they have families, right? So the parents live in Russia, so why they kept silent? When they started showing videos on YouTube, so those parents started calling us. My son is captured, they say. I have no connection with him. Say, it's a little town. All those 18-year-old drafted, and they sent to one military unit. And they talk to each other, know what happens and where. So, and if something happens, they get together and go somewhere to governor, to the military commander of the region, whatever. But since all of them are spread across and they're alone, so that's why they call us. Go and rally? No. This is a different social strata. I'm talking about the military families. Sadly. Because even when they know that their son is dead, or husband is dead, and a wife calls me and I say, send me your contact information, and she says, I'm afraid it's going to be worse. If I've heard about this for the first time during the first war, I probably would be a patient of the psychological association. But we understand what it's now. We know what's happening. And to expect these people that they will rally, no, I don't think so. For me, it would be enough. If they look at the lists, they find their sons and husbands, they come to the committee, they would tell us about it, they would leave their statement here, because we can't do anything if they don't have the official statement from them. We are helpless. So they call me and say, so my son is here and there, so send me SMS with the data. It's very difficult with people in our country. I am not really demanding anything from anybody. We used to have rallies when the war was back then. We were picketing in the 90s when the Karabakh war was. We have lots of pictures where we're holding our banners near the government building. But back then it was possible to do that, because there were governmental structures that would respond to our rallies. But now, you go there, you rally, and what? Some of the regions, they figured it out through governors. The governors, they are the chairman of the military draft commission, and they sign the papers, and they are responsible for the mobilization. If they get engaged in the interaction to do the exchange for captives and the dead. So it never happened like this. They were not allowed to do this in the first Chechen war and the second Chechen war. With the South Ossetia war, it was also very quickly, and I wouldn't say it was as bloody. It was the only war of the Russian Empire, Soviet Union, and Russia when Deputy Defense Minister Nikoai Pankov came to the briefing and said, so in South Ossetia we have 64 people dead and this many were wounded, and he said all these words. It was the only war, South Ossetia war. They officially said how many people were killed, and the rest of it is bollocks. So you are reading how many people died in Afghanistan, and you see it's officially 15,000 people. So in Chechen war we had minimum 14,000, and the territory in Afghan war was more. And why we still have these numbers? Because they're not officially admitted. So these are estimates, of course. It's impossible that it can be only 10 captives for today that are in Ukraine, and there can be 20 dead as of today. That's why these numbers that we have here and the numbers that Ukrainians, the numbers they give, they're more accurate. Because, looking at the old wars, so to speak, when a military unit goes there, then of course they check how many people returned. But since our military not always picks up their dead, so there can be different stories. It's cheaper to write gone missing. Since the Georgian war in 2008, there is a story I never forget. The Georgians, they hit the bomber plane. They found the plane, the navigator was found, and Kamentsov pilot disappeared. His wife went to military unit and everywhere, and we spoke to everybody, and the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, even then were involved. Nobody did anything. So where this colonel went, where this pilot disappeared, nobody knew. And the commander said to wife, so we're going to take away your apartment, we're not going to pay you the insurance and all that, you know, kind of shut up. As soon as we find the military agency that can do something, we always ask, where is this pilot Kavintsov? So is he captured? So Georgians didn't want to help us. So we still don't know where this man is. And Lavrov, today's foreign minister of Russia, you know, I came to him and I spoke to him and I asked him, and he said, yes, we'll do that. And this guy is not the drafted boy. This is a commander of the heavy bomber that can carry nuclear weapons. There are only like 20 or 40 pilots like that in Russia. And he disappeared and nobody needs him. Nobody cares about him. So this situation today, if we quickly stop the war, exchange everybody for everybody, then we won't have everybody with the line gone missing. The first captive, they had it on the first channel, and there was they were referring to Konstantin Ernst, the director of the first channel. They said they paid 1 million rubles to a Ukrainian farmer who kept this soldier in captivity. So, and their scheme is like this: parents call us and tell us where to bring your boy. You know, this horrible. So you know, this BS happens quite often, especially with the soldiers that are running away from their military unit, deserters, so to speak. They say, call us. But you need to know that mothers, they have their soldiers there. But you see, we have the lists from Ukraine and the videos we have, and it's all authentic. So everything that Ukrainians show and all the lists of the losses, they're all accurate. With Ukrainian women, they have this organization. This is the Hope Association of Families of Missing Members, an NGO established by Ukrainian families in 2014. And we're in contact with them, and we discussed these matters with them. And I looked at the lists. Because, you know, our scouts also work, and we know things how they are. So you saw this award. This is the Glass of Wisdom. It's in Munich. This organization gave us this award. It's named after under Georg Elser, who wanted to blast Hitler in that beer bar. During the First World War, during the Spanish influenza, there were many people died in captivity, and they were burying those captives. And they brought me to that cemetery, and they showed me that cemetery where the Brits are buried. And you know, when they say, as if you were like struck by the lightning, I can see a small chapel with the lists of those who are buried. It's a very small one. And there are two cemeteries on the left side. You can see marble stones as they, you know, put on the graves, and on each stone you can read the name, the rank, where they died, where they came from. There is a rose bush or two, and all those white stones. And I look on the right side, I can see oak trees, about like 5 of them, pretty big ones, you know, since the First World War, big ones, you know, green grass. And in this green grass, I can see this tiny little one, tiny little wooden crosses. No names, no lists, nothing. And I ask them, how is it possible? Why? And he says, you know, we were always saying to the Russian authorities, we have lists of those who died back then. And Russia says, no, we're not going to do anything. So, see, I know this, I heard that, I experienced that. That's why I'm kind of hitting the same way. I'm just saying, you know, we need to collect our dead, because otherwise these crosses, you know, it's tiny little cross, wooden cross with nothing. Sorry if I made you sad. So how do you interact with Ukrainian part? So right now, we didn't interact yet, but since we communicate with the Hope Association since 2014, we always call each other. They're also from different towns. We made a statement together. Do you have like a cooperation with them or in some warm feelings? But you know, we've known each other for so many years, and you know, we tried to do something at the beginning when it was very fresh, because Yadviga Lozinskaya, the chairman of the Hope Association, some of the captives we were able to exchange them, but at some point they just disappeared. But this is what happened back then. First, they kept the captives in Lugansk in 2014. And my friend Kazitsyn, Nikoai Kazitsyn, he's one of the Cossacks leaders. And he helped us. And those captives disappeared. And then through our public commissions, we were trying to find these people in prisons, and from several regions they told us, so they don't give us the lists. They told us that by the name they can't identify the person, but in general they told me that there are some of the captives that are kind of coded with just the numbers, but how to find them we don't know. So we failed there, but we do help each other. Naturally, when we write an official letter, we'll say exchange everybody for everybody, starting with 2014. Naturally, but how to do it differently? You know, the person cannot go missing. You know, one is captured by the other. So then they need to register them, to make the documents, and to inform the other side about the captive. But how to do it the other way around? Nobody knows. It's like, where are these Ukrainian captives? So if we don't have the Ukrainian captives, then you killed all of them. So where are the bodies? You see, it's clearly humanitarian problem. There are 4 Geneva Convention and 2 additional protocols. Since 1994, we were like buzzing everyone about this, about those conventions. We made presentations in UN about what happens to the population, to soldiers and all that, based on the conventions. There is another important thing, and there is also an international document on this one too. This is the respect, to be respectful to the dead bodies, and the right of the family to bury the dead under their names, according to the family traditions. But you see, here no one even knows about it, and never knew. So what our priests do, and I kind of say to them, explain it to everyone, explain it to the journalists, that you can't treat the dead like this, the way you do. You know, they're lying dead on the ground, their commanders didn't pick them up, they were picked up by the other side. Where it's possible, of course, the Ukrainians will collect them, maybe we'll find a morgue, and maybe they'll keep them there, but exchange them quickly. You had the battle, after that have the armistice and exchange everyone for everyone. No. Nobody understands it here. Nobody. 2 million rubles that the Ministry of Defense is saying that every dead person will get. Why 2 million? The insurance is 5 million per person per family. So according to the presidential decree, Dated March 2022, all families whose members took part and were killed during the special military operation in Donetsk and Lugansk People's Republic and Ukraine will be compensated in amount of 5 million rubles. Also, all family members of servicemen who died during the special operation in Ukraine will be paid 7,421,000 rubles as an insurance benefit and an allowance according to the Russian law. It's insurance. There is an agreement with the Ministry of Defense, and the budget money will be paid for everybody who is dead, is insured, for injuries, for wounds, and I even have like a special memo on that. But for the dead, according to the 2017, there was 5 million per family. That was the insurance benefits. Different stories, you know, wife, parents, and all that. But nevertheless, everybody knows how to do that. But this story with the insurance, since this is Mikhail Gorbachev's birthday, this is what we managed to get from him, even before the 1991 coup. So that was a special decree to insure servicemen. So Gorbachev managed to do a lot of good things. So as we know that Ministry of Defense will be paying extra money for the dead, they can't really announce anything. There must be a document. It's either some statement of the government. The Ministry of Defense doesn't have their own money. There should be either the Prime Minister's decree or the decision of the Russian Parliament Duma or the Ministry of Finance. The Minister of Defense can't really announce anything, but it doesn't matter because the family will get the insurance. Is this money enough to shut up the family so they wouldn't talk? So I don't know. It depends on the family. So what they'll say, there is nothing to say. They don't know anything. They send their boy to the army, so the boy is contracted. So his mother, this mother called me and said, so her son was supposed to be back, his contract is almost over, but where he is and what he does, nobody knows. So they may get it because he has a wife is in a bad relationship with the mother, so if he's dead, so they'll have to divide the insurance. I don't know how to explain it. I'm trying to explain it in all possible ways. It's possible to explain it to you because you live in Russia and you can understand the thing, but those people from abroad, those international journalists, they don't know, because when I tell them that, they can't even get their head around it, so they don't even have like a reference point. They don't have any, they can't make any sense of it. And they asked me this other question, what those soldiers were thinking about when they were sent to Ukraine. So what kind of question is that from the journalist to the Soldiers' Mothers Committee? You know, what kind of question is that? And I actually was kind of shouting at this girl from Munich, and I said, your questions are stupid. I can tell you what our organization does. Yes, I can tell you that. But your questions, so please, you know, there are sociologists, psychologists, psychiatrists, I don't know. And then she goes, did they send you messages that they're fighting in the war in Ukraine? No, never. We don't have connection with them. So the journalists, they don't even understand these horrible things that the Ukrainians post and say what's happening. They don't even want to kind of get themselves immersed in this. For me, it's difficult, very difficult. It's a very difficult work for the press secretary of a big human rights organization. Are you a foreign agent yet? No, since 2013 I never get a cent from there, because since 2005 we were fighting against this foreign agents law. And I was telling everybody, so they do it so that to cut this money flow to the NGOs, because Russia had those agreements and those international grants to protect this Helsinki agreements. But as soon as the law was passed, every year since 2013 I was applying for presidential grants, and until 2018 I was getting the grants, and we were doing our job according to the grants, and we issued a lot of books, and all those military guys were coming to our round tables and conferences, and everything was just great. And today I also wanted to do this because, you know, I didn't know that the war will be, so because we had to find argument that will be a bulletproof argument that the draft should be cancelled. In 2015, we showed them how much money is spent on the draft. The costs were enormous. Nobody ever calculated this. And when we were speaking to the guy from the audit chamber, and we said to them, so do you know how much it is? And he said, we never calculated that. So also we calculated it, we gave them all the information, and what's in Moscow, and the number is enormous. Using this money, you can actually hire lots of contracted soldiers instead of those drafted. So, but then they forgot about this. So money, you know, oil, gas, whatever. So we kind of swimming in gold. But on the other hand, so we want to continue our workshops and explaining our point. But I don't know how we're going to do this now in this situation. What does a mother have to do when she realizes that her kid is in Ukraine and is fighting the war there? I think that she can turn to everywhere. She can apply to the military prosecution, to the supreme commander. So, but we always say, if something happens, send a message to us, internet, whatever. If you have a picture and you know something, send it to us. Today I had quite an interesting story. A mother called me. Oh my God, my son is serving in Yekaterinburg city and now they sent to Ukraine, and since 24th February I have no communication with him. I said, tell me, what's his name, the date of birth, and the military unit number. And military unit number, I don't know. How don't you know? He's a contractor there. And she goes, I don't know. So his wife, we don't talk to her. And I said, what do you know? And I know that in Yekaterinburg. And I said to her, you know, ask his wife. So as a result, she sends me the name of the boy. So they were from Kyrgyzstan. The guy is 27-year-old. So send me his name, the date of birth. So in Yekaterinburg, then he was sent to Nizhny Tagil. So, you know, where Nizhny Tagil and Yekaterinburg. But fortunately, she sent me the picture of the guy. So I see the regiment. There is some sort of banner. On that banner, there is a flag of the military unit. There is all those emblems and stuff, and then some of them was standing with the maroon berets, and the other part was standing there with the military caps. I called the military prosecution. I said, so let's decide what we're going to do. So this is the story I have. So can you give me the person that could help me with such puzzles? Because according to the picture, they're either Russian Guard or they're paratroopers. He said to me, go to Yekaterinburg, and then prosecutor told me, so do you want me to send you the picture? And the prosecutor said, so describe it to me. And so he said, okay, let me think. So I'll speak to the prosecution officer that is supervising the Russian Guard, so call me back tomorrow. So did you find the guy? I didn't call them yet. They didn't call me back, and I didn't call them either. Well, first of all, we have a 2-hour difference. So I think that tomorrow I'll call them, or through the website or through email. I'll send it to them. If they don't know what the military unit is, I'll just send them the picture. The mother doesn't know the military unit number of the son who is serving there under the contract. The wife doesn't say a word because she doesn't know either. Because she lives in the middle of nowhere and he serves in the middle of nowhere. So obviously wife is not in Nizhny Tagil town. Because if they lived there, then at least the mother would understand where her son lives. So where are they going to rally? Okay, fine, she's good. She went to this Izmailova office, and those girls there told her, you know, call the prosecution office. She called Zoya Svetova. Zoya Svetova is a journalist and human rights activist, and then Zoya Svetova called me. This is how we do our human rights activities. You can't really demand anything from these people. Thank God that somehow they started getting concerned and they kind of moving somewhere. It's already a great achievement. And of course, it takes a lot of effort, but because we can't quite figure out how to actually sort it out, because anyway, you have to go and to communicate to some military body. So no matter how many of those boys you have, but somehow I need to give this information to the military administration, and I have to tell them so we have information that the soldier is captured. So I need to make those military guys work. So what is the algorithm of action of the family that understands that their child is in Ukraine? There are two first numbers. This is the military prosecutor of the military unit where her boy served, and any phone number of the soldiers' mothers committee, group, WhatsApp, whatever, so that in any of our organizations you can get some help, like where you live, like in Nizhny Novgorod or Volgograd or Ekaterinburg city, or those who are on the internet. So call them and tell them about your situation. People who get in touch with you about the situation in Ukraine, what is their position? Do they support the war, or they don't really think anything? I have no idea. I never ask people. Frankly, as our UN representative Nebenzia said, so I refer to him, what he said about it. I don't really care, to put it mildly. So if your son is fighting and you're pro-war, then you understand what's happening. So while the boy was calling, they never knew anything about the war. I mean, mother and father. As soon as he stopped calling, and I asked them, for how long you don't have him calling? And they say, for a month. I was stunned when they said that. So back then we had only letters, snail mail and all that. I don't remember during which campaign. So when the mother was saying, so we're sending letters often, and then 4 months I didn't get a letter, so I started being concerned. But today, when they have mobile phones, and the boy was calling every day, and then for a whole month no calls, so you could get concerned or worried even earlier, sooner. So mothers, fathers, grandmothers, they get worried earlier, so they always call like on weekends, especially those who are drafted. There are special forces, but on weekends they can call. If they didn't call once, their parents, so you can wait another week, didn't call 4 weeks, whatever. Again, I'm talking about the people, about the Russian people. But it can be. So what do we understand about those who are engaged in this military operation? So the contracts or drafted soldiers. This is everybody they found. Because I think even those who were drafted in November and the beginning of December, very quickly they put them on oath, they swore the oath, and they had this quick military exercise, and they sent them to different training grounds, to Belgorod, to Kursk. There are big brigades there, the big military grounds. In 1994, there was a special decree that they consent to the military action only after 4 months in the army. So usually commanders, what they did, so here's your pen, here's your piece of paper, so write a statement that you want to get contracted as a soldier. Some people signed it, some people didn't. Those who didn't, so nothing stopped the commander to send them to a military action. One thing, it was in 2008 during the Georgian War, because they started deploying special forces there, and the special forces were on the military exercise, and if they had a mixed crew of a tank, they would send them anyway there. So nobody, they kind of send everybody, you know. It was very indicative. So of course there were no statements, no nothing. But in all other campaigns, in 2014, 100 drafted soldiers, they turned out to be smart. Some of the commanders, they brought them together in Rostov. They started shouting at them, and they didn't like it. They called the prosecutor, and so they figured it out, and they were moved to a different unit, and I hope that we managed to save them. But if they don't complain, or they begin to speak later, when everything is over, it's like, oh, you know, I was there, I was drafted. And the first thing I asked them, so tell me, did they ask you to write this statement to find on the contract? Did you sign it? Yes, I did. Of course, it's against the law, and of course they're not under the contract, because there's a special procedure that this statement should be on their personal file to the general headquarters, that there should be a special order for them. They will have 3 probation months and all that. So, but you know, who follows the law in this country, especially towards the servicemen? But it's kind of an old story, nothing new. Our point was, if people come to us, we had to warn them. So don't sign anything, kind of send them to hell. If you manage not to sign it, if there is a group of people that don't want to do that, so do you want me to call the prosecutor? I'll do it. I'll call the military prosecutor. Why military prosecutor would protect them? Since 1989, here in Russia, started with Soviet Union, the only military agency that is really doing their best, supervising how the law is observed, and then they see if the law is not observed, even with the reduced authorities they have. It's called measures of prosecution response. And they do respond. How it's going to be? It depends how they're pressured. If we pressure them, then they will take special measures. If we don't pressure them, then everything depends on the Minister of Defense. A good Minister of Defense controls this. Indifferent Minister of Defense doesn't give a damn about it. So that's how it is. Because now you can only rely on the military prosecutor to put the injured in the hospital, to get these social benefits for a woman with a child if their husband is drafted. You know, all those domestic violence and all that. There are some stories with the contractors. Some of them are serving long and they've got a specific relationship like officers. But if we see the person has the right, so go to the prosecutor and the prosecutor will file it. In some way, we do our education work, you know. At some point, those prosecutors realized something, you know, when we came to them and when the parents of the dead in 1989, they were tearing their epaulets and for the dead. So that's why every time we had a military prosecutor, they would invite us for the talk, and this cooperation with the Soldiers' Mothers Committee, we always had that with them. But all those stories with amnesties, even starting with the Gorbachev amnesty for the deserters, with all the wars, with all the issues we had, always made us work together with them. What can we do? We can only ask, we can only demand, we can only submit the paperwork, we can remind them there is a law, that in this situation this should be done. As my colleague used to say, Valentina, I'm writing a statement to the prosecutor, what I'm supposed to order them. Do you think it's continue? Yes, it will, but I'm working fine now. The only thing is that we didn't manage to meet with Vyacheslav Petrov, the chief military prosecutor in Russia. But I'm going to write a letter to him, and I write a letter to him, and we'll get together, I'm sure. this story with this notorious FSB order, you know, not to provide information to foreign citizens and media and all that, lots of information that has to do with the military. Those girls of mine started calling me from the region saying, you know, so are they closing us? And they said, so there is this order. And I said, wait a second. We'll write to the prosecutors. We'll see what's going on. So we agreed. We sat down. We wrote a short letter. So this and that. There is this order from FSB, and this is what's stated in the order. And the second point in that order was that phone numbers, addresses of military prosecution offices and departments also are the classified information. I called the military prosecutor and they say, so what's happening? Are you now underground? And the guy goes, yes. What? What order? What FSB? Could you send it to me on WhatsApp? See? Literally, I was absolutely stunned by that. So they wrote us a letter. They said to us what FSB actually meant, and they said, you NGOs, the human rights organizations, you continue your work. We're always happy to cooperate with you, so please come to us anytime, and we are ready to get all information from you. So what? It's fine. You know, you're okay. They are okay people. Frankly, it has been a long time since I met the bad people. They somehow were like gone from there. So I always call prosecution office easily. Will they help or not? But they will give an advice. I can follow this advice, or I can just listen to this and come up with something myself, or I can call up somebody else, or the higher prosecutor. And this hierarchy works, and people in the main prosecution office, they work with us for a long time, since 1996. What do you think in the near future, what they need to do in order to bring this servicemen from this military operation? I don't know. I'm very disappointed in the mental capacity of the negotiators on the Russian side, those that are negotiating with Ukraine now. What I understand, they don't know what the international laws are, what the war laws are. They don't have empathy. They have no compassion. That's why I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. And again, we kind of relying on the international community. We hope for them. The situation is extremely complicated, because we never had a war where we couldn't get some sort of response, a simple response from the presidential administration. There was the Council for Human Rights there. The administration was sensible there. So till 2000, I had all the phone numbers of the advisors of President Putin. And when I had to exchange 14 people, exchange them for the Chechen captives and to bring them from the north to the south, I called 2 of the envoys, and that's it. So 20 years passed, right? But since then, the last time when I could talk to people, and now I don't know. For me, it was interesting to find out that Vladmir Medinsky is president's advisor. All these situations that had to do with people's life and death, a lot depends on the feeling that they are the same people as you are. And you need to feel that you can find yourself in a similar situation. Since you can be in this situation, help them. Help the dead one to be buried by the family, help the soldier come back home. But these guys, they don't feel anything. So the purpose of the Soldiers' Mothers Committee is not to stop the war. It's impossible to stop the war. We do just step by step. This is how we do. You can't do it any other way around, because, it's on the level of instincts. See, there are people who have this mother's instinct. So first they got together in 1989 for the first gathering of the Soldiers' Mothers Committees across the Soviet Union. When the Soviet Union collapsed, we have additionally other people. When in 1995, when the first Chechen war started, there were so many committees founded, I couldn't even count them. And they called me and said, so we have this committee, they gave us this and that so we can do things. When they went to Chechnya, when they brought medications both to Russians and Chechens, they brought food to Russians and Chechens. The governors were given trucks and buses to move them. So these women could go there and could do their work. So 20 years later, we're here and nothing is in front of us because now they deploy troops somewhere. We know nothing about this, and you can't really stop anything or prevent anything. We could never prevent anything. You know, the Supreme Commander decided to do something. You know, the Council of Federations gave them authority, and they do it. So you see, they arranged that. My lawyer, when we started figuring out what the documents are about, and he said to me, but where is this document about this operation? Where is this decree of the president? I can't find it. And I said, we can find it because it's classified, and all the orders that they make, they're classified. It is said they're sent to the special operation to denazification of Ukraine. But how, you know, if we look at what they say, so this is what it is. So now, together with the prosecutors, we will be discussing this, about the status of Russian soldiers in Ukrainian territory, those who are captured and fight. So do you have power for that? So, been there, done that. Do you have hope? I think if there won't be any like awful atrocities, and I think with the first losses we will be able to do something. What I'm concerned about, that what Russian part does with Ukrainian captives. And I don't know whom to ask. And maybe we'll ask the prosecutors here in Russia. Because if they keep those captives in Lugansk region, in the basements, then everything is bad. If they keep them in Russia, then there is a chance that somehow they will be registered. No answer. Nobody has an answer. The whole world is upside down because in 2014 nobody listened to us. We said, stop it, stop it. At the beginning we said that. At the very beginning, when they started moving troops to Crimea through the Kerchensky current. So there is a Sevastopol city, and there were some limitations according to the conventions that you had only 25,000 troops there. And when I was saying, so while they're moving troops to Sevastopol, I couldn't do anything. But as soon as they started moving troops to Crimea, we immediately made noise everywhere. But nobody listened to us. And when they started fights in Donbass, so people from the Council of Europe came, from European Commission they came, from the UN High Commissioner, they came here, and Alexander Cherkasov, the human rights activists from Memorial Center. Everybody was trying to do something, and we were saying, no, we need to stop that, do something. And everybody was saying, but who's going to do this? Who's going to get cross with Russia? There was a lot of joint business. First, I heard that from Angela Merkel when she came to us for the first time, and she was waiting for Putin for 2 hours, and then she had a meeting with us. So, this is what it is. I'm not ready to answer these questions. I quote this: do what you must, and whatever will be, will be. We don't have any other way to go. Valentina Melnikova, Executive Secretary, Union of Soldiers' Mothers Committee of Russia.